Hello, everyone.
Hey, I'm Connor, and
I'm Amanda.
we're coming to you live outside here, right behind the Wildlife Center of Virginia, for our very exciting program, New Kids on the Block. And we're going to be introducing you to some of the newer ambassadors that have recently joined our team, as well as the most exciting part of this program, which will be the mystery reveal of our brand new ambassador that just joined. I think officially joined last month, if I'm remembering off the top of my head. But yeah, we're pretty excited. Are you ready to get started with our first ambassador, Amanda?
Although I first want to know, do you know any New Kids on the Block songs?
I don't.
I mean, you're a little young for that.
Yeah, okay. As we were coming up with that name, I didn't even know they were a band.
Okay, stop talking now. Never mind. I need a new co-host. Yes, thank you guys so much for joining us all week for Gala Week. Happy to have you here. And yeah, we're just gonna trade off and get started. So what should we set this up, or should I just go get the first ambassador?
Well, why don't you go get the first ambassador, and I'll start talking a little bit about what you're doing while you go get them. So I'm gonna take over the camera here, and I'm gonna switch it around so you're not looking at my face. So you can see Amanda just went into this enclosure here, and you can see that this enclosure is mostly covered up, but that's not because this is our mystery reveal ambassador. This is actually where Ozzy, the eastern screech owl, lives. Ozzy, many of you may be familiar with that name because he's not really necessarily the newest ambassador at our center. He actually came to our center about 2.5 years ago. But just recently, the permits finally went through for him. So he's officially a member of our ambassador team now, which means that the public is able to see him during programs and whatnot. So that this, you can't really see behind these white boards right there, but Ozzy's enclosure is on the right side. So there's actually 2 enclosures in there. And the reason it's covered up is because he is still getting used to all the traffic that moves through this area. People coming back and forth with patients, maybe driving a truck up the hill or something like that. So we have this covered, but we're slowly removing parts of the board piece by piece as he gets used to all the comings and goings around this area. So Amanda right now is going back there, and she's getting Ozzy on the glove. And wow, that was fast. There he is. So he is right on her glove there, and he's going to be coming this way. Now, Ozzy has been doing great for walks. This is the first time he may be seeing, we have this phone on sort of like a large platform that keeps it stable. So he might be a little weirded out by that for a second. I'm going to see if I can zoom in. There we go, just a little bit. And Ozzy, like I said, he's been here for about 2.5 years. So he was admitted in April of 2021. And I'm guessing that this is out of all of our ambassadors, this is one that's definitely very special to Amanda here, because Amanda has been working with him very closely all that time, because raptors, in general, raptors are very challenging to work with, to get them comfortable in human care, to come out for programs like this. And out of raptors, owls are usually the most difficult, and out of owls, little owls like eastern screech owls are the most difficult to work with. And part of that is because they're in the wild, they would be prey for a lot of other animals. So it just takes them a little bit longer to get acclimated and get comfortable. But as you can see, Ozzy is doing a really great job. He originally came to the center because when he was a very young owl, how old about was he when he came in, Amanda?
Wedge owl. So month or so old, maybe.
And when he came in, he looks very different than he does now. Not just because he was a nestling, but also because his head sort of had a very severe head tilt. And what we figured out through testing, they ran some testing in the hospital, and they found out that he had lead toxicosis. So what probably happened, we're assuming, is that his parent, his mother, probably grabbed a little mouse or something that she fed him, but it must have had some form of lead in it. And then he got lead toxicosis, and he was in pretty bad shape there for a while.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with his story, so we in 2021 when he came in, Dr. Cara wrote her year-end blog post.
Yeah.
And I did as well. So it's kind of a part series. Cara talked about his whole treatment plan. He looked dead when he came in and had this most raging head tilt ever. And I got him through that, but unfortunately couldn't really be an ambassador. We still kind of very hungry. We are still working our way through different goals, but I'm very pleased to see him.
As we're talking about him, if you hear those little, what he's doing right there, those little kind of like trills, that is pretty much Ozzy just usually kind of letting Amanda know that he's hungry. He gets very excited about his food.
Yeah, it's
we can see right now that he's looking around, so there might be something that he's seeing that he's focusing on, maybe a bird flying overhead or something going on in the background. But it's been a very long process to get him from where he was when we first started working with him to try to make him an ambassador to where he's at now. Like, it's looking back at the journey, there's a lot of milestones we needed to meet. You really started the process out, because when he first got here, Amanda was the only one that was working with him. You want to speak a little bit about that and what the process was that you went through with him?
Yeah, so I actually took Oz home to my house because in 2021 we're all still navigating the continual pandemic and living in the world, but at the time I was definitely working from home a lot more, so talking to other training friends, coaches, we decided it would be better if I could bring them to my house and have him live in my guest so that I could get more training sessions in during the day. So he lived at my house for 8 months, I think. I go to many training meetings. Connor does as well. We have kind of a training coach, a whole slew of people who are training Raptor ambassadors, kind of a good support club. And somebody there once equated to feeling like they were married for the third. And I was like, yeah, I feel like my life is tied to his. He now lives at the center, and he's lived here for a good year and a half now, thank goodness. So but yeah, we for a while there we were working together every single day, at least a couple times a day, to try and get him used to me.
And it was interesting. It's like, just to give you all an idea of like how much detail you need to pay attention to the way you work with animals. Like, this is like when Amanda was first working with him, like there was a certain way she had to enter. Like, she couldn't just open the door and walk in. There was a certain way she had to enter into his room. She had to kind of like turn her back to him so that she wasn't facing him. If she had to look at Ozzy, you would do it through your hair, right? Yeah. Kind of so that like it didn't look like you were staring at him and intimidating him at all. So it was like all these little things, like you have to be ultra aware of your body posture and the way that you're entering the enclosure, and and also pay close attention to how Ozzy was reacting. But luckily, we still pay close attention to those things. But luckily, he's come a long way since then. Amanda can put her hair up. She doesn't have to look through that. Entering the enclosure, we still do it a certain way, but like he's very comfortable. He's kind of familiar with the process. We usually tap on the door and say, "Hey, Owl," before coming in, just to let him know we're heading that way. And then he it's usually, especially this time of year, he's very eager for his food right now. He's What is he at right now? About 140 grams?
Yeah. Just a nice weight for him. He's a male street owl, so they're a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. But it's not, he's thin, thick, doesn't have a lot of extra reserve. So this change in the weather, I think, has really amped up his appetite. And got it. Thank you.
Okay, so 2 questions here. The first one is, what food does Ozzy eat?
Right now he's eating little bits of mice. So that's his primary diet. We will also eat chick or maybe like pieces of rat, but mice is easy. The mice are easier to chop up in little tidbits. And yes, his head tilt is fully resolved. He looks like a perfect little owl. His lingering issue that makes him non-releasable is just that permanent neurologic issue because of the lead. And really the main thing when the rehab staff were exercising him, they were finding that he just little brain wasn't operating at full speed and kind of navigating in a big space and trying to do all the things you're supposed to do was challenging for him. So, but just to work with in a smaller enclosure, he's great. And like Connor said, we're still kind of meeting different training goals and getting used to introducing him to the world. I know he's working with all of them is an exercise in observation and patience. Working with small owls is definitely an exercise in subtlety and picking up on things. Right now, he's a little bit concerned about something, and I'm not quite sure what. He's not so concerned that he wants to stop eating. So to me, it's kind of a good continuum of okay, if we're too scared to eat, if he's looking super, super tufty and squinty and doesn't want to eat, then he's too afraid. But I'm looking at him look at the trees, and it's pretty breezy here. He's looking at the leaves. I can also hear the kestrels back there.
Yeah.
The alarm call. So something is upsetting everybody right now. So he's just kind of okay, but on alert a little bit. So
something that Amanda mentioned there is the signs that we look at where they're becoming a little uncomfortable. One thing she said was tufty. So if you look at the top of his head right now, you can kind of see what look like little ear tufts. So when those are, when he's alert, he'll move them kind of more upward. So right now, kind of like she said, he's somewhere in the middle. He's a little bit alert, but not so much that he's not interested in food and calm and comfortable enough to stay out here with us. We'll also look at body posture, if they get really tall and pull their feathers in tight, or even eye pupil size is another thing that we might look at for him. But one thing I do want to mention too is something that I didn't know when I first joined the center is that screech owls can come in 2 colorations. So he is the red morph.
Yeah.
So they come in a red morph and a gray morph. So you can see his feather colors are sort of like a brown, ruddy red complexion to them, which is pretty cool. And the one thing I tried too, so we talked about food a second ago. Another food option I tried with him was mealworms. I was really excited. I put together some enrichment where I put a little bowl of mealworms and I put leaves in there so that he would have to move the leaves to get to the mealworms. And I was so excited. He didn't like mealworms. So, well, it was a nice try. He might have eaten a couple. I'm not quite sure, but we do try, to give them some novel experiences like that for enrichment, different things for them to try as well.
Great. Well, I will probably start to put him back, and Connor can answer more questions as I put him away, and then we'll trade off.
Yeah, it's a perfect way. I think Ozzy was saying goodbye there as well. That's what I'm going to interpret it as. A little bit more food. So Amanda will go ahead and get him set up back in that enclosure there. And while we're waiting, I want to point out on the right side, you can see where that kind of that tree looking thing is. So that's actually, it's not a real plant. It's something that we created. So once those white boards come down, there will still be a little bit of cover in front of the mesh on the enclosure there, so that he kind of feels more like he has more privacy, a means of kind of getting out of the public eye if he doesn't want to be in the public eye. So we've got a nice setup for him in there. But if there's any questions, go ahead, and we love to make these sessions interactive, so feel free to post questions in the chat. Larry, who you might have heard, is on the back end and monitoring this, so he'll be able to let us know any questions that come in. And pretty soon here, once Amanda comes back out, I'm going to hand over the camera to her, and then I'm going to go bring out our next ambassador. Our next ambassador is one that if you were at the last gala, you may have met her already, but she is now officially a member of the team. Her permits came in actually on the very same day that Ozzy's permit came through, and that is Clover, the American Kestrel. I'll go ahead and turn this over to Amanda.
Hello, it's me. What are we looking for? Yes, and feel free. Small rodents like mice, and a lot of different insects as well. Small birds. They do eat a startling amount of insects, and I mean their diet can really change seasonally as well. So in the spring and summer, I think it's more insect driven. In the winter time, of course, they're looking for more rodents. Oh, yes, thank you. Ozzy, we auctioned off his naming rights actually way back in 2021. We had a good indication that he probably would be a good bird for us. We just still had a lot of training to do, but we went ahead and auctioned off his naming rights. And our board treasurer actually won those and named him Ozzy. I don't know that there was an enormous amount of significance other than they liked the name and it started with an O, like owl. So it's yes, it's a cute little name. My little Oz. Man, that was a quick exit. I was like, I'll hang back here in case Clover is a little shy or alarmed about whatever's going on out here. I think at this time of year, it's not actually that uncommon to hear them going off sometimes. And I think we probably see some like migratory birds passing overhead. We're right in the midst of the Atlantic Flyway. So I know we get sometimes visitors or just passersby, and usually they irritate all of our raptors a lot. I imagine everybody's like, just get out of here. This is our place. So Connor's just has gotten little Clover out of her enclosure. This is where she lives, beside Verlin, our male kestrel. And he's just putting her equipment on in the hallway, and then she'll come out around the corner here. But Clover came to us also in 2021, right? Yes. She's a little bit of a different story. She was found as a young, healthy baby in the spring of 2021, and some kestrel banders and falconers were doing nest checks. There's a lot of kestrel banding and nest checking. I guess you guys can look at me while I talk. And the banders actually ended up keeping her as a falconry bird and trained with her throughout the summertime. She has a very unusual coloration. The barring on her back is a lot lighter than in other female kestrels. And so they decided to give her a leg up, essentially, as a falconry bird and kind of make sure she really understood how to hunt and everything. And then they released her back to the wild in November of 2021. And unfortunately, she did not actually know how to hunt that well because she was found a few weeks later at a gas station and she was attempting to land on people and was very, very, very hungry. So she came in here and Connor and I assessed her. And one of the things that we did to... There they are. Stop looking at me.
A few seconds to get her on.
Oh, it's fine.
Go for little mouse.
Of course. I wouldn't either. So I was relaying her kind of crazy story, and including when so Clover as a patient was in one of our patient bee pens right up the hill, and Connor and I went in there to say hey and meet her at first, and she was on our heads within a few seconds. We're like, oh, okay.
This isn't normal.
This isn't normal. Yeah. So she actually lived in an aviary for a little while. And one of our very first strategies of really assessing if this bird was going to be releasable or not was just to feed her up. So like give her as much food as she possibly wanted, turn her into a fat little kestrel. She was pretty thin. And then see how that changed her behavior, because all of these things like the weather, their hunger, the time of year, is it migration season? Is it molting season? Us, if Connor walked in a gorilla suit, that may be alarming. Every factor in their environment plays such a big role in their behavior. So one variable we had was just to let her be a fat little kestrel and then see if she was still interested in hanging out with us. And she was. So we were like, okay, you fat little butterball kestrel. Seems like you're probably human printed. And at that point, we actually learned more about when she was taken from the nest, which was at 16 days of age. So yeah, that's pretty young. Yeah. So she is a human imprinted bird and joined our team.
And for those of you that maybe don't know exactly what human imprinted means, it's like when raptors are very young, they go through this process where they basically look at what's taking care of them, and that's how what they start to associate with. So if she had still been a wild kestrel, presumably her wild kestrel parents would have taken care of her and she would have learned to be a kestrel. But because she was taken at such a young age, she looked at people taking care of her and she started to think that she belonged with people. So she would seek people out for food and water and care. That's sort of her story. Now, just because she's imprinted, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's always easier to work with than other birds. There's certainly like a lot of things that we had to take into account as we were working with her. But it does so happen that after she was admitted, she really quickly progressed here at the center in her training to become an ambassador. After, I would say, a couple months after we got her, nice little rouse there. It's always nice to see the kind of fluff out like that. I would say it took about 2 months after we, fattened her up, so to speak, when she was able to, step up on a glove, come out in the hallway, even go up, step up on a scale for us so we can get voluntary weights. From right now, she hovers right around 130, 135 grams is where I've seen her at most recently. But she's also, progressed much farther than that. So like after that, we started taking her on walks, and taking her inside the center to get her used to the sights and sounds of things that she might experience on a program. And what we found as we worked with her is that she really enjoys human interaction. Like she likes to hang out with us and to see what's going on. So what we'll often do is actually we'll bring her, I'd say at least once a week into the center, and in the outreach room, there's a little perch that we can take this little leash here and just tie it into the perch, and she'll hang out. And she just kind of will eat some food there, hang out, watch some of what's going on in the center, and then we'll bring her back into her enclosure later in the day. So she is doing a really great job as an ambassador. In fact, she actually went on. Did she drop that?
She dropped that.
Oh no!
It's lost to the world, Clover.
Oh, Clover. Don't worry, Clover. I've got some more. And let's see what she does with it. This is your big piece.
Oh, Don't drop it.
Don't drop it, Clover. So she's actually, now that her permits have come through, she's been on a couple of programs. She went off-site for a donor event we had in Charlottesville at an art gallery, and then she also went off-site for a program at a retirement home, and she did a great job at both of them. I think it was a new experience. She was still a little bit alert when she came out to be like, where am I, what's going on, but she settled in very quickly and is comfortable now. And did you talk about her coloration at all before I came around?
I did mention, her coloration is more unusual. So it's like a lighter barring on her back, which she's showing us beautifully.
And she nibbles on her mouse. Now, I know some of you asked about Ozzy's favorite food. So Clover's is usually mice, just because it's easiest to use for training, but she likes chick as well. She likes rat occasionally, and then she does like mealworms. So if I put some mealworms in her enclosure, she likes to fly and get those. But something that's been fun to watch is she's been supplementing her diet with some wild insects that have decided to go into her enclosure, including, I'm sure many of you may have heard of spotted lanternflies that have come to this part of Virginia. Unfortunately, a very invasive species of insect, but she's doing her part in eradicating them because she's caught just 2 or 3 so far I've seen in her enclosure. So good on you, Clover. Kind of tearing up that mouse a little bit.
You guys can see her bobbing her tail, which is a pretty classic kestrel thing. They do that for balance, and she's bending over and, oh my God, did you just eat?
She just ate that whole thing.
Wow. I was going to say tearing up her food, and then she swallowed the rest of it.
Yeah, bobbing the tail, something, there she goes. So she's cleaning off her feet just a little bit here after eating, and then usually she'll start to clean off her beak a little bit too. So if you see her rubbing her beak there at all, that's what's going on there. There we go. Cleaning up. I see a little bit of food left over on her beak, but what a nice close up. All right, well, I think I will go ahead and put Clover back in her enclosure. And she's all done eating here. Say goodbye, Clover.
Do you guys have any questions about Miss Clover? Clover actually came pre-named. So when we did talk to those kestrel banders and falconers, they said they had named her Clover, and we thought it was pretty darn cute. So, yeah, we do like to have a lot of naming significance, but we thought Clover was a pretty cute little name that just fit her. So once Connor puts her back, we'll head up somewhere or down somewhere or over somewhere to a mystery enclosure with a mystery ambassador. I feel like I have to blindfold everybody. I don't know. And feel free to let us know your guess if you have a guess on species. We do love auctioning off names here for the gala. And a lot of our animals, Little Oz, Berlin, our kestrel who's next door to Clover, Maggie, Rowan, Oliver. Yeah, I think all of those guys had their names auctioned off at the gala. So you too can play a part in Wildlife Center history and help us name an ambassador that will travel to many, many programs in this next year and into the future. I have been working at the center since Connor was a toddler. No, I've been working at the center for 22 years.
I've been working at the center for a little over 3 years.
Yeah.
And we're getting to the fun part.
I know we're going to do... Well, it's all been...
Well, it's all been... But the funnest part.
Because we love having a secret.
And I know that we don't like to just make this easy, right?
No.
We like to kind of tease it out a little bit.
Where are we going? No one knows. Don't pay attention to your surroundings. Also, I'm going to give you motion sickness.
I could give a hint.
Oh, what?
Let's see.
Can you?
I think so. I'll make this... I'm not sure this will help. The newest ambassador to our team, her favorite food is mice.
Well, that's a terrible hint.
I know, because it's about anything, right?
Like,
all of our animals.
Literally every ambassador here eats mice.
I figured I'd make it challenging. I didn't want to start off with
an
easy, easy hint there.
Okay.
Yeah, should we
hike on over? Let's hike on over.
Whoa, could be anywhere.
I feel like those people who know our layout well could maybe think about it, but trying to just... Is it in here? No, it's not. No, I'll keep it on me and watch me fall over as I walk. But I'm like, no, I won't show you where we're going. Where are we going?
Wonder if we have any guesses.
Any guesses? Do you know where we are? I'm going to hide everything.
I am going to head on in here. And if you want to come on in, you can get that up. I guess at this point it gives it away a little bit.
Does anybody guess where we are?
What's it focused on? Let me see.
Me.
Okay, good. I'll get her.
You just gave a... Hopefully they're still with us. Are you still with us? Okay, good. No guesses. All right. Okay, I'm going to flip the camera around, Connor.
All right, if you're ready.
It's a girl.
The newest member of our team is a possum, a Virginia possum. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to introduce you guys to her, because she has been wonderful to work with. This possum, we've only been working with her for about, let me do the math here, about 2.5, 3 months at this point. She came to us in the summer of 2023, but she didn't come to us as a patient that we initially admitted ourselves. She was admitted by another wildlife rehabilitator earlier this year in spring. And Larry, who is helping us out, he's going to upload some photos that we're going to intersperse here as she's munching on her meal. So we actually have a photo of her when she was first admitted to the other wildlife rehabilitator. You can see how young she was. So I like to think that she's the one on the top there. I'm not quite sure, though. But she was admitted because her mother was unfortunately hit by a car. The mother didn't survive, but she had a couple of little infants in her pouch, 3. So they were taken into this wildlife rehabilitator who cared for them. And I think at this point, if I remember correctly, he said she was about 40 grams. So just a little thing. And he raised them. This person specialized in caring for possums. And the other 2 siblings were able to be released in the wild. But this little girl possum that we have, he saw signs that she may have become habituated to humans. So he transferred her to our center for evaluation to see if that was the case. And if it was, if she would make a good ambassador. So Larry, I'm going to have you upload the next photo. So this is her. This is day 1. This is the when she first arrived at the center. So you can see she's pretty little at that point. She's wrapped up in her blanket. We were feeding her some strawberries, and even on day 1, she was comfortable taking food from tongs and kind of curious about what we were doing. So we were pretty certain, like, that day that, yeah, she was habituated and she couldn't go out in the wild. In fact, the vet team examined her and they said, like, she didn't, try to run away. She didn't react much. She just kind of sat there and was like, what do you need to do? So I'm going to upload, actually, there's another photo that we have, or a video, I think, actually, of this is week 2. So she was initially living inside the center, and she got brave enough to leave the crate she was staying in and explore around. So that's her underneath my desk. She had just eaten some food. She was checking things out and then giving herself a nice little bath. So it didn't take her long to settle in and get comfortable. And then, Larry, you can go ahead and upload the next one. So then we transitioned her out to this outside enclosure where we're at right now. And initially, she was kind of a corner creature, I like to call her, because she liked to stick to that corner right there. She, it was a bigger enclosure, more, outside noises going on. So that was where she was most comfortable at first. So I put her food right by that corner for her. And we actually have another photo of how much she liked that corner that Amanda got. That is her sleeping, if you can figure out this photo at all, that is her sleeping upside down in that corner. And my gosh, look at those little paws. So that was her favorite place to snooze. But she got, more and more comfortable, so we can transition to the next photo. And that was her starting to leave her corner and move out into other parts of the enclosure while we were sitting there with her and eating some of her favorite food. I can see some blackberries and some mice there. So this is when, once she got comfortable enough to eat in front of us, this is really when we started the training process to get her comfortable of being an education animal. So we can go to the next photo we got loaded up here. A little photo journey of her time at the center. So really the first thing that we decided we needed to work on was getting her crate trained. So to voluntarily enter a crate. So this is a photo of the training process. I put a crate in that had a nice little blanket inside, and I kind of had a step-by-step plan of what I was going to do, but she decided she didn't need a step-by-step plan. She just waltzed in there and kind of sat in the corner and looked all cute like that. So she figured it out faster than I anticipated. And before long, after she was voluntarily crating, we progressed in the training even further. So you can go to the next photo. And that is her eating some food on a table, just like what she's doing right now. So that was the first photo session, and I think we got a couple photos of her on the table if you want to run through those. So we just did some repetition sessions to get her comfortable, and it didn't take long. So we used to hold possums with our gloves, but what we found is that they really like to climb and explore. And so it was easier for us to present while they're just kind of hanging out on a table and eating some food. So that's me sitting there working with her, and she's just gaining confidence and doing really well. We can go on to the next slide here. Oh. There we go. We did like a mock program. So that's in the library where all of the vet team and rehab team get together for rounds. And so I kind of took advantage of that since they were all gathered together and just sat there, brought the possum down to the hospital to see how she would do in front of a crowd. And she did great. She's just chilling. She's hanging out. She wasn't nervous. So that there was kind of like the point where we're like, okay, she's great. She can join our education team. She passed all our tests, if you will.
That photo is my favorite because I was trying to take a variety of photos of like the whole room and Connor, and just like Connor's just like beaming at her the whole time. Like, look at that proud dad.
It is like as we work with these ambassadors, it's like, to kind of put it in perspective, bringing her inside the hospital for this mock program, it felt almost like maybe someone sending a kid off to college. It's like their first time doing it, going into the real world and doing things, and she did a great job. So you can move on to the next one. I think we're about rounding out the photo journey here. Yep, that's it. But now we can go back to the live cam feed of her eating right now. So as you can see, she has done a great job, and now you'll see updated on the website here shortly. You can put in a bid to name her. Yeah. So I think I put in a short blurb about to help you guys maybe think through what some good names are, but I can say it out loud here too. as I've worked with her, something that I've noticed is that she was just, compared to some past awesome ambassadors that I've worked with, she's just been friendlier, sort of more curious by nature, about what's going on. She never really showed, many signs of fear necessarily. Like even when she first got here, she wasn't teeth baring. She wasn't like retreating. She was just always curious about what was going on.
I think the fun part. So Connor's been her primary trainer, but there have been a couple of times, of course, where Connor's not here, and so I have fed her and didn't want to just drop off food, wanted to make our interactions meaningful and help in the training process. So I was like, okay, I want to drop off her food. I want her to eat it in front of me. That at least feels significant, but she did not want to come out in front of me. I'm like, Connor, what should I be doing? And he was like, well, you just put the food down and she comes out. And I was like, yeah, not for me, she doesn't. So I think she's very curious and like pretty engaged with Connor, but she was a little less sure of me. So you can tell who the primary trainer is, basically.
I'm going to try to take this out for a second here to get a close up real quick. We're going to do a close up so you can hear her munch. She's a very loud eater. Somewhat of a messy eater, but that's okay. We've also noticed favorite foods, like I said earlier, was mice for sure. She also likes apples, or another favorite, and she really likes when we have browse like this for enrichment. There's certain ones that she likes to eat. Grapevine browse is one of her absolute favorites. Which I'm pretty sure that has a higher sugar content, so it makes sense why she would like that one. But she's, she'll probably she still has some growing to do. She's right now, 1.5 kgs about, which is what, 3-ish pounds, something in that range. You do the math. So she's still got a little bit of growing, but and she has not gone off to a program yet. But she is on her permit. So pretty soon here, we'll be ready to bring her out for programs. The last thing that I've not done with her is bring her on a car ride yet. So that'll be an interesting thing for her to experience, get ready for some off-site programs.
So Connor, tell me about opossums in education programs, because you do the vast majority of the center's off-site programming and on-site stuff too. I feel like opossums are pretty heavy hitters in the program world, right? Like there's almost always an opossum traveling to these programs. Yeah. What is your experience? What's the audience? What do all the people think when they get to meet an opossum?
Yeah, it's interesting because when, was it last year, I guess, when highly pathogenic avian influenza rolled through, we couldn't bring birds out for programs anymore. So it was basically the reptile and possum show. And when we would bring possum, we got such a strong reaction from people. Like, I would go to a program, and before I even brought any of the animals inside from the van that I drove, they'd be asking me, hey, is there going to be a possum as part of this program? So they've become very, very popular, become a big hit. So I expect that she is going to continue to wow audiences as people get to learn more about them. And I think also something that's very cool is people are surprised by how, when I bring them out for programs, they're like, you can just, set that food up on the table and they'll stay there. And I'm like, yeah, we've gone through a training process, so they're not nervous. They're comfortable. They know what's going on. And they do. They just kind of sit around. They'll eat their meal, which gives us a chance to talk about them. A little up close. So, but this is, again, we love to make this interactive. So if you all have any specific questions about this new addition to our team, let us know, because I could probably talk about her all day. So, yep, she's going to roll back. So she's, all of the animals are just the time of year with the weather change, a little bit more hungry than normal. So she's definitely has an increased appetite as well. She usually starts with the mice and the eggs and the fruit, and then like there's kind of like a mixture of dog and cat food kibble in here, and then what she saves for the very end is usually the vegetables. But I can't blame her on that.
Yeah,
I do the same thing. So yes, think through some names. Think through some good names for this little girl. We do have, so we had a flower girl theme for a little bit.
Yeah.
So we have Marigold as her neighbor. She's not out about right now. And the other flower girl possum we had that passed away was a Violet. So, if you want to keep it with a floral or plant-based theme, that's an option. Some other ideas.
Not to my knowledge.
Interesting.
And I think that's all we have to go on these days. So
yeah.
Try and flip through the Rolodex of a possum name. But
so that's maybe Daisy's maybe an option there. If you're not thinking about plant-based names, another one we encourage just think about their natural history, something that ties in with their species. There's lots of different fun things you can think through for that. What do you say? Do you want to say goodbye to the camera? I'm going to hand this back to Amanda because I'm going to go ahead and get her crated up so I can get her off this table.
Yeah.
Back down below.
Oh, look at that. World champion.
Kind of move this table out of her area and
have her enclosure
back.
Yeah, so let us know if you guys have any final questions as we wrap it up. Say hey. Time. Yes, Oliver was a naming rights at the gala. Meaning with the root of his name meaning peace. And is this old lady out? She's snoozing. Yeah. Marigold's our eldest.
Gosh, over
more than three years. Yeah.
But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed getting to meet some of the new kids on the block, so to speak. Which I know is a band. I want to make a song joke here that nobody will get it. So. Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us today and all this week. Tomorrow's Gala Week program is an interview with the Bear Moms. Yes, so they'll be on at 1:30 Eastern, and we'll tell you all about the insights of what it's like to be among the privileged few who get to care for the bears for, a year, basically, until they're released back to the wild. So make sure to come with your bear questions ready. Yes. And if you enjoyed meeting this little girl today, you're going to get to meet her again on Friday for Gala Night. There's from 6:45 to 7:30 is our Meet Some Ambassadors session that night. We're going to have a rotating cast of ambassadors and outreach team members you're going to meet, including, again, this new possum. So another chance to see you. Yeah. So get those. Oh, no. Okay. We'll see you then. Cool. Oh, yeah. I moved. I'm in darkness right here. 1 foot closer to the building. But yes, we'll be looking at those name suggestions, so keep them coming. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys. And bid early, bid often. Bidding closes at 9 p.m. Eastern on Friday night. So don't wait till Saturday. It's Friday night this year. And we'll see you around through the rest of the week. All right. Bye, everybody.